watching. The buck stops here, and time now for our big debate tonight. After the Aruna Shanbag case, another heartbreaking story from Agra has reopened the debate not just around euthanasia but about the state of public health services in India. A father of 6 children, rather a father of 8 children, 6 of his children suffer from a rare neurological disorder that doctors say have no cure, has written to the President and the Chief Minister asking for permission for mercy killing for 6 of his 8 children. He says he cannot afford to treat them, and in any case, there is no treatment. Is this a valid case to debate euthanasia, or is this about how the poor of our country have absolutely no access to public health? Let's introduce our panel this evening. Joining us from Mumbai is Dr. Surendra Dhelia. He's with the Society for the Right to Die with Dignity. Also with me in the studio is Harmala Gupta. She's the founder, president of Cancer Support and works extensively with cancer survivors. We're also joined by Dr. Mukul Verma, one of the best known neurologists of India, who's from Apollo Hospital. And finally, Mohd Nazir, who has come all the way from Agra to tell us his story, his 6 children who suffer from a rare neurological disorder. What would make a father write to the President and say, allow me, allow my children the benefit of euthanasia? Nazir साहब, पहले तो आप हमें बताइए, आप आगरा में क्या करते हैं?
मेरी हलवाई दुकान है।
हलवाई की दुकान,
किराए की दुकान है। 700 महीने देता हूँ।
700 रुपया महीना किराए में देते हैं, और महीने में कितना बन जाता है पैसा? इसलिए पूछ रही हूँ क्योंकि बच्चों की मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट का भी सवाल उठता है।
मेरी दुकानदारी कभी 2500 की हो जाती है, कभी 3000 की हो जाती है, कभी 2 की भी रहती है, कभी 4 की भी रहती है।
अच्छा, और 8 बच्चे हैं आपके? जी,
8 बच्चे हैं।
उसमें से 6 को ये रेयर, बहुत रेयर बीमारी है। कब से ये पैदाइश से ही?
नहीं, पैदाइश से नहीं मिलेंगे। 4-5 साल तक सही रहते हैं। 4-5 साल की उम्र के बाद में इनकी समस्या आती है। पहले इनका चलना बंद हो जाएगा, फिर घोटू चलना बंद हो जाएगा, फिर इनका बैठना बंद हो जाएगा, और फिर इनसे हाथ से खाना बंद हो जाएगा। आखिर में फिर इन 2 बच्चों ने मेरा बिस्तर पकड़ लिया, ये बिस्तर पकड़ लेता है। फिर अब मुझे ये डर सता रहा है, मेरे 4 बच्चे बचे हैं, अल्लाह न करे ये भी इस तरीके बिस्तर पकड़ लें, क्योंकि वो माँ बेचारी बहुत ज़्यादा परेशान रहती है। 6 बच्चों की खिदमत करती है बेचारी, वो उठाती है, गोद में उठाती है, बेचारी दिल भर हो जाता, खाना नहीं खा पाती है, कहीं मिट्टी भी नहीं आ सकती, किसी का इंतकाल हो जाता रिश्तेदारों में, कहीं दावत होती है, दावत में नहीं आ पाती है, बच्चे रोते हैं, अमीर दावत में ले चलो, किस तरीके से 6 बच्चों को ले आए।
हमारी माफी की, आपको ये दर्द एक तरह से यहाँ दोहराना पड़ रहा है हमारी वजह से।
मैं दुआ कर रहा हूँ, अल्लाह पाक कोई दुनिया के अंदर कोई फरिश्ता ऐसा बनकर आए हुए, अल्लाह पाक इनका इलाज करते हुए।
डॉक्टर क्या कहते हैं?
डॉक्टर तो कोई बताती नहीं है। दिल्ली के अंदर 10 दिन भर्ती रह चुका हूँ, कोई नतीजा नहीं निकलता, छुट्टी लेके जाना पड़ती है 10 दिन बाद। और आगरा के अंदर तो कोई बताती नहीं है। भुट्टो साहब थे, उन्होंने MRI कराए थे, इसके बाद में उनकी सट्टा चली, हार गए थे, फिर उनके बाद जाना की हिम्मत नहीं पड़ी। उन्होंने मेडिकल के अंदर भर्ती भी करा था, उस समय प्रजापति थे, वहाँ भी कोई नतीजा नहीं निकला। तो
मतलब दिल टूटने वाली बात है। आप तो जीते हैं, आप तो उनके वालिद हैं, तो आपको तो मतलब आपका तो दिल रोज ही टूटता होगा।
मेरी इतना दर्द हो रहा है, इससे ज्यादा माँ को दर्द होता है। माँ बेचारी रोती है, बच्चे कभी हाथ में से छूट जाते हैं, भारी बच्चे होते हैं, लेटिन कराने है ना, वो हाथ में से गिर जाते हैं। कभी बेचारी कहती है अल्लाह बाप मुझे उठा लिया, तो मैं उसको समझा दूंगा, अगर तुझे अल्लाह ने उठा लिया तो उन बच्चों की होगा, इनकी कौन परवरिश करेगा? हमारे मरने के बाद में इनकी कौन खिदमत करेगा बच्चों की? मेरी उम्र 42 साल की हो गई है, और बीवी की उम्र 38 साल की है।
और आप ये समझा रहे हैं कि लगातार जो एक डीजेनरेटिव डिजीज जिसको कहते हैं, कि उनके फंक्शंस पहले चल नहीं पाए, फिर बैठ नहीं पाते, बाथरूम नहीं जा पाते अपने आप, और बिल्कुल अब एक तरह से डिसेबल्ड, मतलब लेटे हुए हैं, बिस्तर पकड़ लिया। जैसे
2 बच्चों ने बिस्तर पकड़ लिया, वो मक्की भी नहीं हिला सकते हैं, मक्की हाथ से हिला भी नहीं सकते, मक्की उनके मुंह में घुस जाए हुए होठों में बैठ जाती है, उनको फंगा झलना पड़ता। अगर लाइट नहीं होती है, खाना खाते हैं, मुंह में से खाना निकल जाता है उनके। इस तरीके, जिस तरीके ये फोटो है बच्चे का, ये मेरा बच्चा 4 साल का था जब खड़ा हुआ था बच्चा है, और ये बच्चे ने बिस्तर पकड़ लिया, मक्खी भी नहीं हिला सकता है। ये बच्चा मेरा 10 साल का और 13 साल का बच्चा है। पहले पोजीशन इनकी ये थी, अब ये चल नहीं पाना पाएगी, घोटू वगैरह चल लेता है। इनकी मैं फिजियोथेरेपी करा रहा हूँ दोनों बच्चों जी। ये अपने हाथ से पानी पी लेते हैं, हाथ से पानी पी लेते हैं, अल्लाह का शुक्र है। वरना मुझे डर सता रहा है, ऐसा नहीं होगा, खुदा ना करे, अल्लाह ना करे, इस तरीके से ये बच्चे हो जाए। मैं ये मजबूरी में मैंने ये कदम उठाया है।
आपने ये फैसला कैसे किया कि मैं राष्ट्रपति को लिखूं कि भाई यूथनेसिया, मर्सी किलिंग, मैं इन बच्चों मतलब उनका मरना उनसे जीने से बेहतर होगा। आप एक तरह से यही कह रहे हैं that it would be better for them to die than for them to live।
बहुत मजबूरी में कदम उठाया है।
Dr. Verma, I'll start with you. What I'm able to understand, a rare neurological disorder which is degenerative and they lose control over their functionality day by day. What is a parent meant to do? Is this about euthanasia? Is it about the state of public health? The doctors have told him there is no treatment. Doctors ने यही बोला कि कोई इलाज नहीं हो सकता।
एम्स के डॉक्टर ने बोला था कि ये बीमारी ठीक नहीं हुई, ये बता दो।
एम्स में बोला था कि बीमारी ठीक नहीं हुई। डॉक्टर वर्मा।
See, as a doctor, and we always keep hoping that something will come up, because it's possible that somewhere down the line, maybe a month later, a year later, a couple of years later, some breakthrough can occur, and therefore.
So you wait for the miracle.
I mean, we always.
I know scientists don't like to use the word miracle, but
we like to wait, and we like, because breakthroughs do keep happening from time to time. And one
that science may find an answer.
Science may find an answer. Supposing you give into a euthanasia, and 1 year down the line some breakthrough occurs, then what?
डॉक्टर साहब कह रहे हैं कि हो सकता है आज कोई इलाज ना हो सकता है 4 साल बाद इलाज हो जाए, उम्मीद पे दुनिया कायम है।
मैं अल्लाह की ज़ात से यकीन करता हूँ, कोशिश करना, मेहनत करना हमारा काम है, बाकी अल्लाह का काम है। अल्लाह पाक कोई फरिश्ता, अगर हम कोशिश करेंगे तो अल्लाह पाक हो सकता है कोई फरिश्ता बना के ऐसा भेज दे जो लाइलाज को इलाज कर देता और इलाज को लाइलाज कर देता। ये तो अल्लाह के हाथ में है, कोशिश करना हमारा काम है।
Harmala, we're still debating the concept of a living will in this country. After Aruna Shanbag's case, we were back to debating euthanasia. Passive euthanasia is permissible by the Supreme Court. But here's a father who actually writes to the President of India saying that it would be better for my children to die now than for me to watch them suffer in this way. There is no cure.
But you know, I just like to say that often when people do this, it's actually a cry for help. They don't in fact want to carry out what they're threatening to do. It happens to people also sometimes when they threaten to fall. Otherwise, why to jump from somewhere? Why should they announce it?
Yeah.
Basically, he's reached the end of his tether, and so has his wife. So I think the question we should be asking is, how can we help them? How can we help them?
But how can we? We can never know what it means like to be that parent watching your child.
We should find out from them what is the kind of help they need. Do they want all their children therefore to have access to physiotherapy? At the moment they are only able to afford physiotherapy for 2 children. Do they need someone to come in and help them with the nursing of the kids? We heard about the fact that it's difficult to feed them, for example. You know, maybe there are ways of feeding them where the medical community can contribute.
So let me put this to Nazir. Harmala ji कह रही हैं कि हो सकता है कि आपने ये दर्द में और एक तरह से डिस्पेयर में ये चिट्ठी लिखी कि भाई कोई हमारी मदद करे, लेकिन क्या सोसाइटी, क्या डॉक्टर लोग आपकी मदद कर सकते हैं? जैसे आपने कहा कि बच्चों की फिजियोथेरेपी हो रही है, अगर स्टेट की तरफ से या प्राइवेट सिटीजन्स की तरफ से, बाकी नागरिकों की तरफ से ये मदद मिल जाए कि कोई आपकी बच्चों की फिजियोथेरेपी कर दे, या कोई स्पेशल नीड्स की कोई ट्रीटमेंट जो उनको खाना खिलाने में मदद कर सके, आप ये चाहते हैं? आप बोल तो रहे हैं कि हम चाहते हैं कि अपने बच्चों को मारने की परमिशन हमें दी जाए, लेकिन हो सकता है दर्द में आपने वो कहा हो, लेकिन जो आप चाहते हैं वो मदद है।
मैं ये चाहता हूँ इन बच्चों का इलाज हो।
इलाज तो चाहते हैं और मदद भी चाहते हैं, ये तो नहीं चाहते कि वो जिए ना। आपने लिखा तो ये, लेकिन कोई भी पेरेंट नहीं चाहेगा
ये तो सरकार भी नहीं चाहेगी, इजाजत नहीं दे सकती इसकी। तो
आप चाहते हैं उनकी दर्द किसी तरह का हो बच्चों की।
जी, लेकिन ये आदमी दिमाग खराब होता है, परेशान हो जाता, तो किस तरीके से उसके अल्फाज निकल भी सकते हैं। और कर भी आता आदमी, गुस्से में कर भी आता,
गुस्से में कर भी आता,
जब परेशान
गुस्से में तो नहीं पर दर्द में, और एक तरह से कि जिंदगी में कैसे ऐसे जिए।
जी जी, तो वैसे ऐसी बात तो नहीं है, दुनिया के अंदर सर इलाज तो होगा, अल्लाह पाक पता नहीं कोई बंदा बना कर भेज दे इसके लिए।
Dr. Dhalia, do you agree with Harmala that we should not confuse this case with the right to die? Although you are with the right to die with dignity, I'm a little, my instinct is always to support euthanasia, and then my mind always pulls me back, because in a country where there is such deep inequity between how the poor can afford healthcare and the well-off can afford healthcare, we do not want a situation where our poor are pushed to despair again and again and think euthanasia is the option, and that's what's worrying me here, Dr. Dhalia.
Euthanasia, as far as this particular case is concerned, is not an option. When we talk about euthanasia, we talk about voluntary euthanasia.
Yes.
A person who is mentally competent, who is terminally ill, he wants a peaceful exit.
Yes.
Either he expresses desire to have a peaceful exit, or else he has made a living will when he was mentally competent, in case he is not mentally competent today to express his wishes.
Yes.
So as far as this particular case is concerned, this does not fall in the domain of euthanasia. I have full sympathy for the children. The audio quality is not good. No. Hello?
Yes, we can
Am
hear
I
you.
audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
Okay. Now, in this particular case, I have full sympathies for the children. I empathize with the parents, the family. I know how difficult it is to take care of 6 children with disability.
Yes.
Even if one has a child, just one single child with such disability, it becomes very difficult. Here there are 6 children, and to take care of them is difficult to impossible.
Dr.
But all the
Dr.
same-
Thalia, you said this is not a case for euthanasia, but somebody may
Absolutely.
tomorrow turn around and say that I see no hope in this situation. You may say there's no getting better. Is that a situation in which you would ever consider euthanasia?
See, euthanasia as on today I will consider only in those cases where patient is A, terminally ill,
Yes.
B, where patient wants a peaceful exit. So here, since these are children, probably as on today the question of euthanasia being offered to them, in my opinion, does not arise.
नजीर साहब, बच्चे क्या बोलते हैं?
बच्चे जो 4 बच्चे हैं वो बात सही कर लेते हैं।
सही कर लेते हैं?
ये 2 बच्चे जो वो नहीं कर पाते हैं।
क्या नाम है आपके बच्चों का?
मेरा बड़े लड़के ये सुलेम नाम है, जो लड़के बीमार है, 18 साल का, और जो 16
जो बिस्तर पकड़ा है वो कितने साल का है?
सुलेम नाम है, ये लड़का है।
दिखाइए।
ये बच्चा है, ये बिस्तर पकड़ा हुआ 18 साल का है
जी। वो 18 साल का है और वो बिस्तर पकड़ा हुआ है जी।
और जो माँ की गोद में ये 16 साल का है इस समय,
और वो दोनों बिस्तर पे हैं बिल्कुल।
ये बिस्तर
मैं समझ गई। और बाकी बच्चे?
ये बच्चे चल नहीं पा रहे हैं पैरों से, बाकी खाना खा लेते हैं घास से,
बात करते हैं।
हाँ, बात करते हैं, खूब समझदारी बात करते हैं, कलमा पढ़ लेते हैं, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह मोहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह, कुरान शरीफ के अंदर रब्बी शराली सदरी वयस्सिरली, इस तरीके पढ़ लेता है लड़का आसिम जो है। और जो मुंह में आता है ABCD 2 एकम 2 2 दूनी 4, मतलब जो बच्चे जिस तरीके पढ़ते हैं तो उसी तरीके से वही पढ़ने लगते हैं।
तो बच्चे तो मतलब 18 साल तक तो जिंदगी हुई ना। अब ये तो नहीं हम कह सकते कि भाई जो भी जिसकी भी कोई भी बीमारी हो, अगर वो बेहतर ना हो तो उनको मार ही दिया जाए। आप भी शायद ये नहीं चाहते। आपने चिट्ठी ये लिखी है, लेकिन आपको सुनते हुए मैं जानती हूँ कि आप ये नहीं चाहते, आप मदद चाहते हैं।
कभी कभी ऐसा होता है दिमाग अपसेट हो जाता है इंसान को, तो कर भी जाता।
डॉक्टर वर्मा,
परेशान होकर कर भी जाता।
मैं आपकी बात समझ रही हूँ कि मतलब it's easy for us to sit here and lecture you. Dr. Verma, media reports suggest that this is a Canavan disease, which is, I don't know, you'd know better, but a gene-linked neurological disorder, which has no treatment. Now, what does a doctor do in this situation? What do you say? I mean, I'm sure nobody's even counseling him. We don't even have those kind of services here where somebody has spent, I can't even imagine that a doctor has spent 15 minutes to, कभी डॉक्टर ने कुछ समझाया, 15-20 मिनट लगा के किसी ने कुछ समझाया?
नहीं, मुझे आगरा में तो किसी ने समझाया।
That's right.
Doctor.
So I mean, basically it's a matter of the state of affairs in public health.
Yes.
And somebody should give him genetic counseling, the parents genetic counseling, and they should explain exactly how this disease affects the children, that they can live up till a certain age. And like I said, there's many of these children will reach an age of teenage, maybe even early adulthood, and so there is
time. And I also wonder if doctors at any point said that if this is a gene-linked disease, then maybe it isn't wise to have another child, because that child will. I mean, I don't know, Harmala. I mean, that's something that strikes me.
You know, there's communication and communication.
Yes.
Often what happens is the doctor, from his point of view, is talking in very medical terms.
Yes.
It's not necessary that they actually understand what it is.
Yes.
Because I remember reading somewhere, they said we are to blame because we are cousins, we have intermarried, that's why we have. I think, you know, and he doesn't see it that way. वो कह रहे हैं कि ये फरिश्ते हैं, कि अल्लाह ने हमें ये बच्चे दिए हैं. So I think often where you should begin is perhaps with the consequences. That if you have more children, how are you going to cope? How, you know, maybe that's where the focus actually needs to be. So along with the fact that we need better medical services, more support, more social services, I think there's really a need here for us to think about training doctors with certain tools
that
they can use.
Time? I mean,
you know, this doesn't take more than 2 or 3 minutes. Worldwide, they have seen that once you master the tools of communication, it doesn't take you too
नज़ीर साहब,
long.
कभी किसी डॉक्टर ने आपको ये एडवाइस किया कि अगर ये जेनेटिक है तो ये बार-बार हो सकता है? किसी ने आपको बोला कि आप थोड़ा सोचे, हो सकता है और बच्चे ना करें क्योंकि बच्चों को प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है?
मुझे मैडम किसी ने समझाया. मैंने आगरा के अंदर देखिए डॉक्टर बंसल भारती, डॉक्टर आसिफ मिश्रा, डॉक्टर मुगल चंद, डॉक्टर महेश्वरी गुप्ता, डॉक्टर अमित, डॉक्टर नवीन.
Dr. Delia, you were wanting to come in? Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to say that we must create an awareness in the society that there are genetic diseases like thalassemia, Down syndrome, hemophilia, and this particular neurological disorder, where genetic counseling is a must in case there is a family history of such disorders, or in case at least when a first child is born with one such disease, before the couple thinks of having next child, they must go to a genetic counselor, so that, you know, the best treatment as on today for such diseases is prevention.
But Dr. Delia, you're talking about genetic counseling. We are talking about people who can't get an appointment with a doctor. आप कहाँ की बात कर रहे हैं? यहाँ तो बेसिक चीज ही नहीं है.
मैं आपके साथ सहमत हूँ मैडम.
भाई साहब, आप ये बताएं किस तरह की मदद चाहिए अभी आपको?
मेरे बच्चे
कि आप संभाल.
मेरे बच्चे ठीक हैं.
अगर वो बिल्कुल ठीक ना हो लेकिन उनकी देखभाल करते रहें,
वो तो खिदमत तो करना पड़ेगी. अल्लाह की ज़ात है, अल्लाह बीमारी देता. हज़रत अय्यूब अलैहिस्सलाम को लेना.
लेकिन कोई और लोग भी आपके साथ लग जाएं, मतलब आपको अकेला ना करना पड़े, तो कैसे होगा आपके लिए?
किस तरह की मदद से आपका जो एक तरह से आपकी जो दर्द है वो थोड़ी कम होगी?
मैं अल्लाह की ज़ात पर यकीन कर रहा हूँ कि इंशाल्लाह बच्चे ठीक हो जाएंगे. और इनके साथ
वो तो अल्लाह अगर दुआ करता है तो वो करेंगे, लेकिन यहाँ जमीन पर डॉक्टरों की तरफ से या सरकार की तरफ से या ये जो दर्शक हमारे प्रोग्राम देख रहे हैं उनकी तरफ से किस तरह की मदद आपकी जिंदगी में थोड़ी सी रिलीफ जिसको कहते हैं?
इनका इलाज होगा, बाकी शिफा देना तो अल्लाह के हाथ में.
पर जैसे रोज की देखभाल है
जी, रोज
की फिजियोथेरेपी है.
जी,
आपके पास फाइनेंशियल प्रॉब्लम, मतलब पैसे उतने हैं कि आप?
मैं 2 बच्चों के कराता हूँ तो उसमें एक बच्चे का डॉक्टर फीस लेता है और एक की नहीं लेता है.
और बाकी जो बच्चे?
बाकी तो मैं लेने आता हूँ. 2 को ले जा सकता हूँ. दोनों स्कूटर में बैठ के आता है. एक बच्चों को पकड़ के ले आती है, एक आगे पे खड़ा करके ले आता हूँ और पीछे जो माँ गोद में लेके जाती है. बाकी बच्चों को मेरी माँ संभालती है.
बाकी बच्चों को नहीं कराते आप?
नहीं, वो नहीं कराता हूँ. फिर मेरी मम्मी संभालती है बच्चों को.
बाकियों का क्यों नहीं कराते फिजियोथेरेपी?
कैसे ले आऊँ कि आमदनी नहीं है.
उनको
आमदनी ही नहीं है. Let me ask you as a doctor, Dr. Verma, what could be done? Maybe there is no cure, but what could be done to make this a manageable life? Because I know that our viewers will write in saying how can we help, and I do want to be very specific and not patronizing or pitiful about how we can help. So what would help a patient like this, Dr. Verma?
Number one, one has to explain what one expects over the next few years. And okay, there's no cure, but most diseases don't have a cure except for infection. Every other disease is controllable. In this case, the problem is that the disease is a degenerative disease and it goes on getting worse as time goes by. And unfortunately, it's happened at a very young age, so these children don't live for too long. But they can be made to enjoy their life. I mean, they can be given good facilities. They can be given a nice life filled with laughter and happiness. And that is, I mean, that is what I think we can do.
Harmala?
See, I think first of all they must feel they're not alone. We have to tell them they're not alone. We understand their problems and we are with them. They must be given breaks. Caregiving is terribly onerous. It's a burden. It's natural after a while that you wish, my God, I wish it was all over, you know. We need volunteers from our society to come in there, give the parents a break now and then, encourage them to get out, go see a film, have some fun, as you said, you know, carry on as normal a life as they can. And these things are possible. So this is where we need social organizations to hold hands. We need people in the community.
And all of you agree that this has nothing to do with the euthanasia debate, although that's how he framed his story.
Well, I don't, as I said, that's the only way you get attention sometimes.
Dr. Verma, last thoughts, and then I'll ask Nazir to wrap this up for us.
Yeah, I think in these situations like leukodystrophies, there is some hope with bone marrow transplant and things like that if it's done at a very young age, in the infant itself or just in the...
सबसे छोटा बच्चे की क्या उम्र है?
अवान ये जुड़वा के बच्चे हैं, तेवा और अवान 8 साल के हैं दोनों.
8 साल के, okay. So just last thoughts, and then, you know, caregiving. I mean, Harmala says caregiving is so difficult. The point is that we do not have, Dr. Verma, social systems or medical systems here. We do not have healthcare.
Yeah, even to diagnose these patients, it needs a lot of finances. Because they need MRIs and other blood tests which are not routinely done.
It's unfair to expect the family just to do it. I mean, after all, these people, we belong to a country. We are citizens. We have certain rights. We have certain right to be supported when we have children who are suffering from this, to be cared for.
Yeah, that's why I say universal health care. Where is that?
Yeah, where is that? We should be talking about these issues.
Yeah, Dr. Delia, you wanted to add to that? On universal healthcare?
I just wanted to say that in such cases, as Madam says, the caregivers need more care than the patients. It's such a painful thing to see these children, to take care of them.
Yeah.
So the caretakers also need breaks.
Nazir साहब, आप आखिर में बताइए, आप बहादुरी से जितना आपसे हो सकता है आप कोशिश करते हैं, उसमें आपको अपनी दुकान भी चलानी है, जिंदगी भी जीनी है, बाकी काम भी करने हैं, तो हम लोग आपकी किस तरह से मदद कर सकते हैं?
मेरा बच्चों का इलाज है। और
अगर मान लीजिए अभी इलाज नहीं है, हो सकता है कभी आए, मुझे मालूम नहीं, मैं डॉक्टर नहीं हूँ, रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में क्या मदद, फाइनेंशियल, पैसे के तौर पर, कि कोई और, कभी हरमाला जी कह रही थी कभी आपका भी मन करता होगा कि मैं भी थोड़ी देर कुछ और कर रहा हूँ, मैं भी थोड़ी देर कुछ पिक्चर देखा हूँ, मैं भी थोड़ी देर कहीं खाना खाऊं, पर आपकी तो पूरी जिंदगी एक तरह से अब यही बन गई।
माँ की जिंदगी ज्यादा परेशानी,
माँ की सबसे ज्यादा। और ये जो चिट्ठी आपने लिखी राष्ट्रपति को, इसको आप वापस लेते हैं? अब एक तरह से वैसे आपने कहा कभी कभी मन खराब हो जाता है तो लिखते हैं।
इनका इलाज है तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं।
हरमाला, लास्ट वर्ड टू यू, got to close. It's heartbreaking. Yeah.
Unfortunately, in this world, we have to live with the certainty of uncertainty.
Yes.
And this is one such case. We cannot give assurance, but we can always offer hope. I think hope can come in various packages.
Yeah.
And often the hope is, you know, tomorrow I'm going to have a good day. I'm going to be doing something nice for myself tomorrow. There'll be people who are going to come here, going to support me. And I think gradually people do come to terms with their lives, but they need the support. And I think that's our responsibility to provide that, both as you know, fellow citizens and the state too.
And we hope that you wanted to just add to that?
I'd like to add that any person just wants to get the belief and actually know that the best is being tried and the best is being done.
And that's my problem here. I do not believe that the best is being tried because we do not have that kind of universal healthcare for especially the poorer people of this country. बहुत आपका शुक्रिया कि आप यहाँ आए और हम सब उम्मीद करते हैं कि कुछ इसमें से कुछ ऐसा नतीजा निकले, कुछ खुशी की पल ही होते हैं जिंदगी में कई बार।
इंशाल्लाह मैं अल्लाह की इजाज़त से यकीन करता हूँ इसका नतीजा जरूर निकलेगा।
Mohd Nazir, Dr. Verma, Harmala Gupta and Dr. Delia, thank you so much for joining us on the Buck Stops here. Moving on now to our other big story on the Buck Stops here tonight. 20 soldiers of the army have been killed in a dastardly militant attack in Manipur. Easily one of the worst attacks of its kind in recent memory, it throws up disturbing questions as to whether a dangerous regrouping of militants is taking place and whether the threat of militancy in the northeast has been underestimated, with the public, the media and perhaps even the national security establishment's eye more on Jammu and Kashmir than the northeast. To discuss the implications and what this attack tells us about what we should be paying closer attention to. We're joined now by the former Army Chief, General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, and also with me in the studio is Nitin Gokhale, defense analyst, senior journalist, and of course an old colleague. General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, I'll start with you. One doesn't remember the army taking this scale of losses in a single incident for a long time now. What are the first things that strike you about this? There are details coming in that the NSCN-K and the ULFA have jointly taken responsibility. There are reports that indicate a regrouping of militant groups all coming together under a new banner. What strikes you about what we know so far?
Well, the first thing that strikes you is the scale of the casualties. An Indian Army battalion doesn't suffer 20 casualties in one go. Yes. If it is moving with any semblance of security. Now, as far as I can understand from the facts that I can make out from the media and from other comments that I'm reading, this was an administrative column, yes, which was carrying troops home for leave.
Yes.
It is not known whether the route on which this column was traveling was at all sanitized, whether road protection parties were out, yeah, or was it taking place, the move was taking place in an area where there was no militant activity, and hence this type of movement was routine, yes, which leads me to believe, though I would like to be informed and corrected if required, the ambush would have taken place somewhere south of Imphal, along somewhere near the Imphal-Moreh road. Am I correct?
Let me bring in Nitin on this. We do know, General Chaudhary, that it's in Naga-dominated area. But I would imagine that the route that the convoy was going to take was well known. It was a unit that was decommissioning. It had just been replaced by another unit there. But General Chaudhary raising the point about sanitization. The fact is that road opening parties really used to pay much more attention at a time when we thought that the threat was much more ominous. Does this attack reflect a kind of complacency setting in?
I would think so at first glance, and first preliminary reports indicate first couple of points that General Roy Chaudhary was asking for. This company was de-inducting from that location, yes, and coming down, basically going out, and one of the companies was replacing it. And there was road opening done apparently, but I think it was done perfunctorily. Yeah. It wasn't very, so there was complacency, one, yeah, on the face of it at least. Yes. And secondly, like General Roy Chaudhary is saying, and I also remember when I spent time in the Northeast, the last big ambush I remember was sometime in 1996, where some 25 odd soldiers were killed by a Naga group, the other Naga group, the NSC and IM. Yeah. After that, one has not seen anything going into double digits. But let me also bring you up to date that in the last 3 months, there have been 3 ambushes on the Army and the Assam Rifles. One in Arunachal Pradesh, second in Nagaland in Tuensang district, where 8 Assam Rifles people were killed, and now 20 of a 6 Dogra regiment, which is an infantry unit of the Army, not even Assam Rifles. So therefore, the coming together of the groups there, 9 groups led by the NSC and Khaplang group, yeah, and the ULFA, has brought in a little bit more and the government taken by surprise with the NSCN-K only recently withdrawing its ceasefire. We've seen Kiran Rijiju going on record to say that we were taken aback. They were, in fact, they abrogated the ceasefire on their own. They've been in ceasefire for almost, I would say, 15, 16 years now, from 1997. And they were taken by surprise. And they had a meeting recently in April in Myanmar, in Sagyang division, where they decided to form this front called United Nationalist Liberation Front of Southwest, Southeast Asia, West Southeast Asia, some very long big name. Yeah. The point is they have pooled their resources. Where they actually say that the Northeast is part of Western Southeast Asia. Exactly. WISA as they're calling it. But General Chaudhary, the fact of the matter is that this is coming at a time when Tripura just lifted the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. Now, of course, no one state can be compared to the other, but Manipur has seen the iconic Irom Sharmila fasting for the removal of AFSPA, and that has taken place, you know, for several years, and now you have the attacks that Nitin is referring to. So do you think this seals the debate on the Armed Forces Special Powers Act?
No, I don't see it that way. I see it that the army is now got to go in for a much longer tenure than they had thought earlier. We always thought that the Northeast now is a bit of a forgotten front and things are quiet there, and people have been saying, why are you wasting troops in the Northeast? There's really nothing going on there. Yeah. But now we see things are hotting up. Now bringing in Manipur, bringing in Imphal, all those areas.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, this greater Southeast Asia is expanding, and so we have to now bring the army back on a big scale. And if I am not mistaken, we should now treat the Northeast as if it was a prelude to another J&K coming up. I think it is better to be safe than sorry. I think it's better to move in.
Very serious thing to say. And you know what's ironic is I think that if you do a statistical comparison, militancy may have declined in Jammu and Kashmir compared to the sudden surge we are seeing in the Northeast, sir.
Yes, I know. So bring in more troops and see that both these areas remain under control.
Nitin, this comparison
with Jammu... You have to invest
Jammu...
more troops in the Northeast now.
Nitin, Northeast is a forgotten front. The media is more guilty than anybody else. Even today, had these soldiers died in Jammu and Kashmir, all of us, and we all must plead guilty, would have been giving it more attention. But General Chaudhary is making a strategic argument. He's saying that there is a sense that we're not looking at this as an area that actually needs more troops, not less.
Well, I don't know what the quantity of troops or the quantum of troops, but I must say this, that the Northeast must be looked at as a bridge between India, rest of India and Southeast Asia. The government is saying that we are acting east.
Yeah.
And if we don't fix Northeast, then your acting east policy will be of no consequence.
So the biggest takeaway for you as we conclude of this attack, what's the thing that strikes you?
The thing is that there are enough troops there as far as I know. The largest corps in the Indian army is in Manipur and Nagaland.
Yeah.
So that's not a problem. The problem is of application and accountability. If these ambushes have taken place and scale of casualties that have occurred, I think some heads need to roll really, and the army
You're saying some heads should roll?
Yes, I think so, because this is serious. You can't take this kind of casualties, and therefore the army must now look at its SOPs and look at the redeployment of its troops.
Standard operating procedures need to be reviewed. General Chaudhary, 30 seconds, last word. Nitin Gokhale arguing some heads have to roll. These are the lives of 20 of our young men.
Heads always roll. Under such circumstances, when they take place, the person in charge, the heads roll. Sometimes the wrong heads roll, but heads do roll. But some stringent action will be taken, has to be taken.
Yes.
And it's a wake-up because our SOPs are all there. They have to be practiced correctly, and the biggest wake-up call, the troops themselves have woken up.
Absolutely.
And now they will take all this very seriously.
And we hope the Northeast will then, it's sad that it takes an attack like this for the Northeast, for states like Manipur to get the attention on primetime news. But important points being made by both of you, General Chaudhary and Nitin Gokhale. Thank you so much for joining us on the Buck Stops here. We're taking a quick break. On the other side, there are 3 more states that join the ban against Maggi. But shouldn't the debate go well beyond Maggi and ask a fundamental question? How safe is our food? How safe are the other brands, for instance? That debate coming up on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching the Buck Stops here. The other big story tonight, 3 other states, Uttarakhand, Gujarat and Jammu and Kashmir, have joined the growing list of states that have decided to ban Maggi. There are obviously no instant solutions, certainly not any 2-minute ones, to rebuilding a broken brand. But on this program today, we ask whether it's fair to concentrate only on Maggi. Shouldn't this be an opportunity to look at other brands as well? Why is Maggi facing all the flack? And is this an opportunity to clean up the food we eat? Let's introduce our panel this evening. With me in the studio, Dr. Sunita Narayan with the Centre for Science and Environment. The CSE, of course, a few years ago tested several food items, including Maggi, and we'll hear about that in just a moment. Also with me in the studio, Ishi Khosla, well-known nutritionist. And joining me, Dilip Cherian. He's a brand and image guru. And Gurcharan Das, the former CEO of Procter & Gamble, at a time when multinationals are back to being the big evil word in our lexicon. Sunita, I'll start with you. The fact of the matter is the average person who eats Maggi, somebody like me, doesn't necessarily get the science of it. What do I want to know? What does a parent want to know? What does a child want to know? Is this safe?
But that's exactly the question. I think, you know, Parka, everywhere in the world, when you have a packet that you're picking
holding a Maggi packet.
I'm holding a Maggi packet. You are expected to put very clearly, not in the point size and the font size that they have put over here. You're expected to put how much of this packet is in relation to your daily diet. Now, we know when we tested Maggi, we know that one packet of Maggi has about 70 to 80% of the salt that you should be eating in a day. Now, because the government of India, and that is the weakness of the government of India as well, does not make it mandatory for Maggi to put on the packet how much salt it contains. It does not say here that this is 70% of your daily quota.
So you're saying when I have one packet of Maggi, I'm actually have only about 20% space left to have salt?
You should be having boiled vegetables for the rest of the day.
Good grief.
Yes.
You just killed my appetite.
No, but I think that's what children, listen, let's be very clear.
But seriously,
salt, sugar, fat today are one of the biggest issues. Obesity is being seen as a pandemic. And a company like Maggi, now this is where responsible brands have to play a role.
So you're saying the labeling is misleading?
The labeling is not just misleading, I think it's mischievous. They put here how much sugar they have, knowing that they don't have any, so they say minus sugar.
Yeah.
But they don't put the salt because government doesn't ask them to do so, and because they're not a responsible brand.
And many of the questions that have to be put today are not just to Nestle, but to the government, to those, to food safety officers. Why was this not detected earlier if indeed there was lead in MSG and salt that was not properly labeled? Gurcharan Das, as you know, the relationship between a consumer and a brand is built on trust. The point is, at the moment, that trust is broken down. Is the media, is public opinion being unfair in singling out Maggi? What do you think?
Well, I think Maggi is being unfairly targeted.
What do you mean?
I mean, Nestle makes the safest products in the world. And these Maggi noodles are sold in 150 countries. And they've been sold in India for 35 years. And they're the brand leader. So it's a soft target. And frankly, I think there's a bit of a storm in a teacup here.
How is it a soft target? How is it a soft target? You know, I remember in the 70s, Nestle used to... One minute, Gurcharan. In the 70s, there was that famous controversy or infamous controversy when Nestle actually promoted milk formula over breast milk. We've had an incident of larvae being found in Nestle milk powder just in the last few days. What is so soft about a multinational company that earns in the thousands of crores? How is that a soft target?
It's not the earning in the thousands of crores, Barkha. I've known Nestle very long. I've competed against Nestle in many countries. And it is the sort of tests that they do are far greater. The noodles that you'll find on the street in Delhi are far more dangerous to eat than Maggi noodles. And so what I'm saying is, yes, I think we need to see finally the controversy about the tests, and we need to find out where these lead, etc., came from. But I would say that is not how this company behaves around the world. Now, if I were in the place of this company, I would have jumped in, and I would have been a lot more aggressive in defending myself. But the fact is here, what you've got is it's been badly handled by both sides. The government has created panic among the people with talk of prosecutions. And frankly, at the end of the day, you know, it's a diversion from our real issues.
Now, hang on. The safety of the food we eat is a real issue.
Yeah,
Gurcharan, the safety of what we eat is matters to people above politics, the value of the rupee.
I said that.
Economic reform. It's a rosy roti ka sawal in a way. I mean, Maggi is not a rich person's food. Everybody eats Maggi. Now you have a situation where the army is telling its soldiers don't eat Maggi.
I don't pit, you know, these informal, chola walas on the street with Maggi.
Before you interrupt, whoever is interrupting me,
Sunita is trying to make a point. Okay,
can I just...
Yeah, complete your point and the others are waiting.
Can I just finish?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to say that it sounds to me like a diversion from our real problems. Delhi has been declared the most polluted city in the world. And if I were the Chief Minister of Delhi, I would be worrying about that rather than banning Maggi noodles, being the first state to ban
let me just bring in Dilip and Ishi and we'll come back.
No one's going to die with that.
Okay, Dilip, the
but people are going to die with bad air and bad water.
Dilip, when a brand is under attack, it's no point actually saying, why are you singling me out? The fact of the matter is that Maggi was iconic. It became like a kind of, a shorthand for all noodles. And so today, maybe it's being attacked on the behalf of all processed food. Right? So I don't think it's just about Maggi. I think this is a debate about processed food in general.
I think that is where, it's simply ridiculous to isolate one brand or look at one kind of product. Where Sunita started from, look at a range of products, sort out the kind of labeling that products need to have, make sure that it's printed in a large enough size, and make sure that there is education around it. Today, India has a large consumer protection fund, and which funds a program called Jago, Grahak Jao. It's these programs that need to get out there and inform people so that people are aware of what's going into their processed food.
But do you see, Dilip, but Gurcharan used the word panic. Do you believe the reaction to Maggi right now is precaution, is sensible precaution or paranoia? Is it sensible precaution or paranoia?
I would say that it is a sensible precaution because we need to see the test results. Once the test results tell you what it is, it should either be lifted or the product should be banned in total. I don't see halfway houses of 15 days unless it's taking 15 days to test this. There is something drastically wrong if it takes so long to go through the process of testing a relatively simple product. The Nestle is saying that laboratories don't have the ability to test MSG, they only test glucomate. So I think all these issues need to be put to rest, and we need to have sensible aggression, and we need to move very quickly.
Okay, let me just bring in Ishi and then I'll take it back to Sunita. Ishi, actually it's staggering to hear Sunita saying that if you eat one plate of Maggi, that's about 80% of the salt intake you need. Most people will think it's just a snack. It's just one snack in the day. And my point at this moment is this going to reopen the debate, a much needed debate on the health of our food? Or is it just going to be about what Gurcharan is calling brand bashing?
I completely, my view on this is, it is giving you an opportunity to address food safety. Food safety cannot be handled by one party. It is many systems together. And in case in point with lead, for instance, it is an environmental pollutant. It has no business to be in our food. So we have to regulate where it's, we have to find out where it's coming from, and then lower the levels to levels which are permissible. So that's one part of it. And food safety is not only about food safety in terms of heavy metals, it could be in terms of other toxins, it could be microbial safety, it could be pesticides.
But the world over, how many of us actually read the label carefully?
That's the point, that it's not something which I can do at my level, sitting at home. I deserve safe food. So I leave it to somebody behind me to regulate.
And do you advise your people who come to you to eat Maggi? Would you allow it? Do you consider it safe?
You must be joking.
No, I'm just asking. No question. No. I'm not talking about weight loss and weight gain. Do you think it's safe food?
Absolutely. Well, like I said, safety has to be understood in various ways. It won't kill me in a day, but certainly it's not good for my health. So it's microbially safe, but it may not. You have lead in it, so you don't know. But my point is, it's not only processed food, which you just said. It's food. It's the entire food chain, starting from your vegetables, starting from your milk, your meats, your eggs.
But then
you can just see the Yamuna. You can see the vegetables which are being grown in contaminated waters.
Absolutely.
Are we controlling that lead? Are we controlling mercury there?
But Gurcharan may argue, Sunita, picking up on Ishi's point, that's exactly it. That we're not talking, we're making a holistic argument. We're not talking about water contamination. If I remember my figures correctly, a WHO study of water in 26 cities of India actually found that 31% of it was below par. Now, his argument is, how is it going to help by just talking about Maggi? We don't even know what the source of the lead is. Where is it coming from? Is it in the water? Where is it coming from?
That was exactly the issue when we tested colas. Okay?
Yeah.
Where did the pesticide come from?
Yes.
It came from the groundwater that the cola companies were sourcing.
Yes.
And they were not treating the groundwater, and they were using it. Now, when we tested pesticides in groundwater, our issue was threefold. One, we wanted definitely standards for pesticide in colas. We also wanted tighter standards for pesticide use across India, which is one of the things that we asked the JPC, and we did manage to get. And the third is we asked for a food safety authority, which also we got, which is FSSAI. But we are not
then
getting...
how did the Food Safety Authority clear Maggie if it actually contains
But
lead?
I think that's where
that's
our
the point, yeah.
You want to add to that, and then I want Gurcharan to come in. Yeah.
Simply because testing is not mandatory. Certain things are mandatory, certain
Exactly.
things are just good manufacturing practices. So if you do it, and then there's a cost to every test. So my point is, why don't we encourage manufacturers to label their food safe with respect to all these issues?
You were saying to Gurcharan, don't club street food or hawkers
See,
with
there's
this.
a
Why?
difference. There's difference. Again, when we tested, we've tested antibiotics in honey, we've tested. Every time we are told, what about all the air pollution in the air? What about all the street food and the dirty water there? Everything has to be improved. But there are different kinds of contaminations that we will have to deal with, okay? Air pollution is an issue. Mr. Das should know we are fighting very hard, and all the diesel manufacturers, if he has any work, if he can put in any word to them, they need to make sure that they can clean up their cars and reduce the emissions.
You're saying it's not either or. I'm hearing you say not either or. Let's bring in Gurcharan and Dilip. Gurcharan, go ahead. Gurcharan, how can you disagree with anything you've heard so far?
Look, no, I mean, I don't disagree. The fact is, I'm very worried about the quality of air and water in Delhi and the state of the Yamuna.
Yeah.
But to me, these are the real problems that we should be putting all our energies. No. And
Why
to me, this Maggie controversy is a storm in the teacup. We should be concerned with food standards.
Yeah.
What Sunita Narayan said about the salt, that education must take place.
So why
but
is
what
Maggie
you're
not
doing here is you're mixing all these things up into finding, and this is what Sunita Narayan did with Pepsi also. She found a soft target and she wanted some publicity, and that's what she got.
Come on,
and so
Gurcharan.
I don't want us to go that route.
I mean, come on.
I think Sunita's pretty well known. I don't think she needs to need this to get publicity.
Exactly what companies deteriorate to. And it's so sad to hear this from Mr. Das. I have a lot of respect for him. Very sad to hear this from him. I think the issue today all over the world is food safety, both for nutrition as well as toxicity.
Yeah.
We are not new in this. We're not doing a good job. I think what we have to do is to ask companies to do a better job. Mexico has put a 10% soda tax. It has put an 8% tax on everything called junk food, including Maggie. It is essentially today, obesity is the world's biggest pandemic.
Yeah.
These companies that produce junk food are responsible
Let me get Dilip
for doing this.
Dilip, a junk food tax. Dilip, a junk food tax.
I think I'm all in favor. I'm all in favor of a junk food tax. It's high time we did it, and it's high time we also made sure that that junk food tax goes into educating teachers, parents, children on what they should be eating. Yeah. Because otherwise we are heading into a natural disaster which is man-made by our lack of concern for what is going into our systems.
Gurcharan, is it fair for you to personalize this and call Sunita a headline hunter when you're not? You need to address the issue, not the person.
I did not mean that. I apologize.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay.
What I wanted to say here is, first, I think we are mixing up two things. We're mixing up junk food and we are mixing up the food standards.
Yeah.
I think food standards, this debate, the Maggie debate, one of the best things that's going to come out of this is that it's putting attention on food standards, which are very, very important.
Good. No, I think
At the same time,
I
do believe that multinationals are nice soft targets for environmentalists and do-gooders to go after.
Back again.
And I do believe
that No, but Ishi, I think Gurcharan makes one important point. You can't mix junk food with safety standards because and we must be careful about that, because McDonald's and KFC may be perfectly legal in meeting some safety standards, but they're still bad for you, right?
Totally, that's a different issue.
And whatever is bad for you tastes delicious, unfortunately.
Safe, toxin safe, and nutritionally safe.
But I think food standards start with the recognition of what goes into you.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point also.
Exactly.
Okay.
That we're talking about environmental pollution. One of the chief sources of lead is fumes and exhaust. We're talking of the environment. How does the environment get its lead? It's from petroleum. Yeah. It's from lead batteries. It's from paint. But
we have to start somewhere, right? So we can't let perfect not be the enemy of good. We have to start somewhere.
Air quality is a very valid
point.
Okay, I have time just for 30 seconds to all of you. Sunita, I'll start with you.
No, it's very important for us to have safety standards for our food, and it is also important that the Nestle issue is dealt with so that Nestle, if indeed governments are finding lead high, they need to deal with it. They need to make sure that companies can't get away with this.
Okay.
And they need to improve standards for safety.
Dilip, 30 seconds.
I think that we need to also have a much larger battery of testing facilities which can be relied on, because we can't afford these delays. Testing needs to be regular. Testing must not mean an inspector Raj, but it must mean safety for the consumer.
Good, Charan.
Look, if Nestle is guilty, they should be punished. There's no question about it. But all I'm trying to say is that the Minister for Consumer Affairs, Mr. Paswan, comes from Bihar. He is the one who has talked about prosecuting Nestle. Now, I would ask him that this is an opportunity for him to think about the food and the water that people on the street are eating in Bihar. And that's really what, if this controversy achieves that, that's a much more important gain for us than getting headlines.
Sunita saying you're being patronizing and insulting, but let me add a question. I know we're at the end, but let me add a question. Are we really going to compare what, you know, Nestle has the money, Nestle has the resources to supply a safe product. A poor vendor on the street may not have those resources. Why would you compare some hawker with this multi-billion-dollar company called Nestle?
I don't think it's a question of comparison. The person who's eating the food, who is going to die from food that's unsafe? So whoever makes it is liable for that. And we should be concerned about the safety of all our food and not only food made by Nestle.
Okay, quickly. 30 seconds and Sunita, you can get a last word in.
Safe food is a priority, should be made a priority for all the food manufacturers, but the regulation for doing this is very important. The environmental protection agencies have to kick in, and the health authorities need to do their job, and the implementation of these things at the ground needs to be done.
Sunita, quickly.
I think, Barkha, time and again, the one thing that is clear is that Indians care about the quality of their food, and they need all food improved. But stop pitting the large companies who are aggressive in marketing. They don't have Madhuri Dixit's and Amitabh Bachchan's going out there and telling you this is healthy to eat. It has enough salt that it would give you hypertension. And if indeed it has the lead, then the company is both irresponsible for salt as well as lead. So let's not try and pit the small versus the big.
We'll leave it there. I think what we can agree on is that this should be an opportunity to have a larger conversation about the entire food chain, about the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food on our table. And even when you say something's organic, is it really organic? We actually don't know how our food is sourced, and that is so important. So we hope that this controversy around Maggi starts that debate. We leave it there. Dilip Cherry and Gurcharan Das, Ishi Khosla, Sunita Narayan, thank you for joining us on The Buck Stops Here. And that's it on the program tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. See you then. Goodbye.